Okay, so we're live on air. That's beautiful. I will tell you that I received some feedback from the faculty. Oh no, this can't be right. I received some feedback from the faculty that says that one of the students complained that we insist on having one lecture in Afrikaans and one in English. And we don't, of course. I think I spoke, all the lectures were in English, and I went to YouTube to check it. I think it was. So someone was just confused between this year and last year. But YouTube is handy sometimes. If somebody asks me something, I can tell them, look at minutes so and so on YouTube. And I like having YouTube. It's like a, okay, so this is the course webpage as it stood this morning. I've uploaded the module framework, but there's still a lot of things that are missing, and I will fill them in. We'll try to fill them in, but things are quite hectic. Okay, apparently I need to sign in again. Give me a second. Should be easy enough. Okay, if you think there is info missing, please tell me and I will add it. Obviously, sometimes I still need to find out, and with the mix-up of the rooms, I don't really trust central office, but our secretary will sort it out. Unfortunately, she's on sick leave this week, so she'll be back next week. A couple of things. One is that I kind of prefer this room. I didn't even see the other room. I couldn't find it on the web myself. I'm not allowed to see your schedule because I'm not registered as a first year. But I don't care about the other room. I like this room. When I was a first year, we had all our maths lectures in this hall. It used to be a little different. There used to be a door here and only blackboards, none of this fake wall. There's the height here. Of course, when I was a first year, I was much younger, much smaller, and this place used to look large. Now it's tiny, intimate. We'll have our tat in Arga B for Bravo, Alpha Bravo, and D for Delta. Those two Nargas. They're in different buildings. If you've never been in D, just find out where it is. Don't. But note that on Thursday, and I'll still sort out who goes where. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but we'll find some way. A couple of things. I had to write this module framework suddenly last week, and I just copied stuff over from the maths framework, which has excellent sentences like, attendance of lectures and tutorials is compulsory. When I was a first year, I had a second job. I used to tutor maths for high school students. And I didn't spend much time at university. Actually, I probably spent all the time I had to, but I didn't have much time outside university. So all I did was attend lectures, and I paid 100% attention, and it worked really well for me. I don't know if it's going to work really well for you, but I can tell you from my experience, I just listened in class, and I didn't do anything outside class, and somehow got me through. So I like lectures. I can't go to them anymore. I'm being entirely sincere. Once I turned about 30, I found that after 20 minutes of any lecture, I fall asleep. I just cannot stay awake. You know that feeling you get in church and you go, after 20 minutes, exactly, that's what starts happening to me. But you guys are still young. I went to a full day of lecture, so I'm sure you can do it. And tutorials, yes, tutorials. If you're good, they're easy peasy. If you're not good, you must really try to do them. You must really be there. So don't skip the tutorials. Unofficially, I don't really, well, YouTube is over there. Unofficially, I don't really care so much. If you can't come to a lecture, please don't send me a sick note, ever. I don't want to know about it, and people skip lecture all the time, as I'm sure you've found out by now. So it's not the end of the world. Language. Okay, so the university is getting anal about the language policy and all other things. Bureaucracy is increasing exponentially. By the time you graduate, the university administration will have achieved its goal, which is to eliminate all the staff and students from the university, because that'll make it work much more smoothly. This is how all bureaucracies function. No problem. Okay? They increase and increase, and they want to take over any organization. However, having said all that, they want us to fill out forms after every week to say that we've complied with the language policy and with the assessment policy and with the feedback policy and with gender equality policies, and have a lot of paperwork they want us to fill in. And I don't want to do it, but I'll do it. As far as the language goes, I'm supposed to stop 10 minutes from the end, give you an Afrikaans summary of what I've said, or an English summary if I spoke in Afrikaans, or record little videos at home to recap everything in Afrikaans. I will try to roughly do that if anybody's interested. But if nobody's interested, I'm going to ask you to sign a form that says we want all our lectures to be in English. I think it has to be unanimous, so that if you don't agree, you mustn't sign it, and you mustn't be forced to listen to no Afrikaans whatsoever. But according to the policy, these lectures can be in English, let's say, as long as I summarize in Afrikaans. I should translate the module framework in Afrikaans or other stuff I produce, but unfortunately the notes, the textbook, and the slides are from this website, from the course website of the original textbook, and we just don't have the resources to translate all of that. To be honest, I despise people who insist on Afrikaans and then they speak English. It's this odd mixture where people speak Afrikaans, but every second word is English. I can speak pure Afrikaans, and I like doing that. It's kind of like a little mental challenge. But to be honest, I speak it at home, but when it comes to technical stuff, loads of stuff doesn't exist in Afrikaans, the term. And when I have to speak Afrikaans, I just make them up on the fly, because that's also a little mental puzzle. But it's almost, not impossible, but it's difficult to speak pure Afrikaans. Even just informally, we love throwing in English words. Some things just don't even sound right in pure Afrikaans anymore. In any case, enough gripe about that. If you have issues, please come and speak to me. I don't want to sound curmudgeonly about it, and I'm flexible, and we can make any kind of arrangement. I honestly just don't think that mother language instruction in Afrikaans will help you in computer science, even though it may help you in things like psychology or literature or all that. Okie dokie. But I do take it seriously because, well, they'll fire me if I don't. Okay, right. Those are the assessments. I just want to stress, because people are always asking me about this after the fact. 5 assessments only in this course. We have 2 written tests, and there has to be that final test. And insanely, the university insists on having these tests at least the final one during the exam time, which makes it sound like an exam. But you know from the 144, 113, 144, that it's not really an exam, it's just another test. It's like all the other tests. I'll give you samples from previous years, but I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to mark 200 scripts. We'll do them online. So under test conditions, but it'll be online. All those tests, all of that you see. We need to have a practical test, because otherwise people do not learn to write real code. So in this course we find that if we don't give any practical tests, some students, maybe all of them, just memorize memorize computer science. I don't know how that works. But they get to the end of the course without being able to write a real program. They can't produce a real program that compiles and runs. Conversely, if we only use practical tests and no written tests, then students tend to not be able to code and fix. So they just sit in front of the computer and hack it until it works. That's not what we want either. We want something else. But the bottom line is that we need both kinds of tests. But there'll only be one practical test in this course. I mustn't point like that because YouTube can't see. And then we'll have a project. I may have promised to try to attempt to consider putting the project up by today, and I may still take that into consideration, but it's not up yet. But I'll show you the project in a sec. It's worked out. Okay, part of the reason I'm a little busy this week is because I'm having about, I don't know, 40 hours of meetings, 30 hours of meetings with students who have been caught plagiarizing. So we don't always do this, but in some courses, when it gets bad, we check for plagiarism, and then we instigate investigations into students. And we now have, as I say, about, I don't know how many, loads of students in a second-year course that have been caught plagiarizing work from other students. And so we interview them individually and try to be remedial and say, what did you do? Confess your sins. And they'll say something like, followed through 4 weeks and some off and say, well, plagiarism is wrong, you mustn't do it. Because we're assessing you and we need to give marks for your own work. If you're not able to write a program, you shouldn't get credit for that. Also, if you didn't do the work yourself, you haven't learned anything. If you did, you could have done it yourself. All kinds of stuff. At the end of this course, I'll almost certainly run a sophisticated plagiarism checker. So please don't do that, because you'll make a lot of work for me. Yeah, whatever lecturer, even if it's some other lecturer, I'm still involved because I'm head of computer science and have to be there. Some kind of punishment. You'll see that the schedule is entirely open because I haven't filled it in yet. But as I said, I'll update this. You can translate it. You can put up your project. I'll put up some of the slides for the first half of the course, and I'll put up the rest and all the programs and all the watch me. Just quickly about the project. So some time ago, like 5, 6 years ago, I taught this course, and I don't like doing it, but all the people involved are now dead, so I think it's safe to recycle that project, apart from me, of course. And so the project is all worked out. Now, by this time, life has probably moved on, but I think it's still sensible to maybe ask you if any of you have heard of a game called Plants vs. Zombies. Okay. So is it still around? Do people still play it? It's not like Pac-Man. Okay, so we are going to write Plants vs. Zombies. Clearly, enthusiastic people are enthusiastic, but if you haven't heard of it, there's a ton of stuff on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, you will see about, I don't know, 10 years worth of solid viewing that you can watch. I'm not going to show you all of it, but I've just got a small video that we can watch just to show you what's going on. Open. Oh, now I don't need sound because I am the sound. I am the music. Okay. Okay. So that's a company who made it. I'll just give you a short intro. So if you don't know how it works, it's a genre of games called tower defense. They all work roughly the same if you take away all the graphics. if you were blind, that would be the same. It's not true. It's going to take a long time. Let's just skip it. You don't need to do this. This is not what's required. And the full details will come. But roughly the idea is that you've got a board like this, and you can place defenses, in this case plants. In this case on the left-hand side. And then from the right-hand side, there's an army of zombies advancing. And you'll see that as soon as these plants, those are pea shooters, and they shoot peas. And you can see that when the zombies come, they hit the zombies and kill the zombies eventually. And the idea is for you to, in some mind-numbingly clerical way, place a lot of plants here and stop the zombies from reaching that side of the board. The zombies come in different waves and different speeds, and there are different kinds of zombies. There are sprinter zombies and businessmen, I don't know all the details. There are tons of plants you can plant, so many different kinds. And I think this is just a demo. So in real life, you'll actually be using all of the boards, just explaining the different kinds of plants you can plant. So let's just see if there's real life in this game. Oh, maybe. Okay, there we go. So there's a full board where all the whole lawn is being used. It will like this. For copyright reasons, we can't write plants versus zombies. So we shall do robots versus cats. Different kinds of robots that you can place. They can do things, shoot, catch, nose. You'll get army of cats advancing from the right-hand side. They reach here before you kill all of them. The game is kind of over. Okay. So, just in preparation, you may want to watch a couple of videos if you don't already. If you haven't made your own videos, and put them up on your games channel. If you're intimately familiar with plants and zombies, daily communication with the authors and all that. If that is not the case, then it may be a good idea to just watch a couple of videos, one or two, and to maybe even download the game and play. I think it's available on smartphones and smartphones. I am not planning to communicate with any students unless I can identify them. And your name is Bethany. That's Bethany. Where's Bethany? You're not Bethany, don't you? Bethany. What's your name? Henry. David. I'm sorry, David, yes. Jewish name. Good Jewish name. Excellent. Hi, what do you want? What do you want, David?
You need to also create solver for this. Yes.
Because there's no real solver in some sense. It's not like there's one solution or a solution. Yes, probably kind of optimal way of placing the plants, but this is not that kind of thing. This is more like one of those, I've never ever touched one, so I don't know how they work, but I imagine like one of those fidget spinners, that there's no way to win it. If I'm referring to it. It just spins, okay? Hang on guys, name starts with G, enter the key. And H, Garrett.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have to take the sun?
Kind of. There's energy involved, but I don't think there's. Hang on. So, I will be honest, I looked through the spec of the game, but I didn't read the details. So, some of the little details escaped me. I don't think there's any falling anything, because that's a little complicated for people who may be going in the first half. But there is some kind of energy thing involved, so you don't have to catch something. There's only one. Okay, guys, we're all in here, it's fine scenario.
Yes.
Hi,
Are we using
Is that Italian, eh? Italian?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we using some kind of library? Are we allowed to use any libraries that we can use in projects? We have to
Are you allowed to use any libraries you can use for the
like
project?
rendering kind of things, or
What?
like rendering kind of things, or page groups?
Yeah, but I hope you'll find that the difficult part is not drawing pictures on the screen. And I'll give you some basic values that you can use. If you can make your own, you can make it fancy, but that's not the difficult part. I mean, this is not a 3D engine product. It's not real time ray tracing rendering. The graphics is minor, and the real challenge of that is in the for real. For real. Even if you're the big company making big games and podcast, the issue here is not the graphics, which is easy, but getting the feel of the game now. I have to turn a lot of time in the reference. I have to move on. Yes. Yes, what's your name? Donald. Okay. Yes.
So regarding the game, there is a problem that cats can lose faster than zombies.
Then zombies.
Yeah, like
Sometimes cats can move very fast, but a lot of the time cats are quite slow. For example, if you want a cat to move fast, you can do what you want, but it's not right. I have a cat, I admit, that is very calm. Follows the commands, the red commands, the basic commands, and it comes from full to that, but that's not the usual. Luca. Yes. Luca. That's what I said. That's an Italian man also. Yes, an Italian? Oh, see. Bene. Yes, Italian network. Yes. Question.
Okay, once I have an objection to usually murdering cats and
Why does anybody who has any experience with cats have any objection to killing them? I want to kill my own cats. And it's only the fear that they will kill me first. Yes.
and the other one is this game has like a lost way.
Okay, so this game has tons of levels. And if you think you're done with the level, the game company comes out with a new version of this model. So you can carry on going forever. But it ends in the sense that, yeah, once the waves are done, with the zombies that all exhausted themselves, then the game ends in that sense. Or if they reach your lawnmower, separate lawnmower. If you lose, you have to replay the level, and if you win, then you move on to the next level. But that's an optional extra for the project. Just one way, one level is always immediate. You can do more if you want, but it's not required. I've forgotten your name, but you have it. John. Yes.
That my question was actually
Okay, so any answer? Any other questions? No, excellent. Let's move on. I'm a little uneasy about, I know what I'll do. I don't want to put these videos on Sunday, because firstly, somebody will investigate me, and secondly, they're rather big. But I'll put links to the YouTube videos where I've found these on Sunlearn, and you can watch to your content. And hopefully by the end of the week, I'll even put up the whole spec. Because why shouldn't you start now? The last time, I recall only one thing, and that's the last time we had this project. There was one guy who did this amazing implementation. It was like better than the game that the company developed. And that's fine. If you enjoy doing that, it's okay, but it's going a little overboard. Are you sure your name's not Bethany?
Yeah, Jock. You seem very confident.
How nice is this? Is that it? Yeah, accept it. It's all right.
Okay, I'll admit, I made this very sophisticated list of all your pictures and your names, and then this morning I discovered that about half of them are wrong. Where's Alfia? She doesn't come to class anymore. I know, but she's entered for this course, except that I had her down as a bloke. But remind you, I called that mistake, so I may have done your names incorrectly, but eventually I'll, oh my God, it's half an hour and we just chat. We're supposed to be doing the real work. Okay, right. So,
what is this course about? We need to learn object orientation, so we need to learn all about objects. And in fact, this book course has really two parts. One is learning all about objects and how we use them and what they are and all the ins and outs. And there's a lot of details to learn, but more importantly, you need to practice this because it needs to become intuition. So there's a lot going on with objects. You're probably not going to master all of it in this course. Maybe you are, maybe you already have. But the basics is what you have to pick up. Now, I can give you a list of the basics, but that's not really how the best way to learn to understand what's going on. And definitely that won't help you any, you can't just memorize a few things. Learning to understand objects really means you have to practice a lot, writing object orientation. And sometimes things will stump you, and they stump me sometimes. But in any case. So we need to learn all about objects. And the second part of this course, the fourth term, we'll start learning about advanced data structures. Now that's something else. Just objects is at a low level, that's at a programming language level, but combining using objects to create data structures where you can store data, big data, data that's interrelated and can be used in different ways. That's something else. It's slightly higher level. It may be that the line is not always clear. What is data, what's data type, and what is the data structure? But that's part of what the course is about, teaching that difference. So, what do we mean by data type? Well, if you think about a program, it's really just some kind of function that takes data and transforms it into other data. So, if I have a function that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius, it reads in the Fahrenheit temperature, and it has some kind of function, it's executing that function, and it outputs the Celsius. But Plants and Zombies is also a function. Its inputs are the commands that you execute or you issue with the mouse and the keyboard. That's its inputs, and it has sophisticated internal functions, and its outputs are the graphics and the sounds. So it's also converting data from one format to another format. And that's all any program really does. A program that converts Fahrenheit to Celsius is transformative. So it's transforming data from one form to another form, then it stops. But a program that, like Plants and Zombies, that carries on forever. I know that it could stop, but technically could also carry on forever. We call those event-driven systems. So they're also called reactive programs, because it looks to us as if they're reacting to the input data all the time, producing new output data, without ever stopping. So it's a little bit of a distinction between these two different kinds of programs, but for our purposes, they're really the same. We've seen data types before, ways to store the data. We've seen things like booleans and ints and doubles. When we use a data type, it's these things, the kind of types of different data, we're really talking about two things. We're talking about the values that it can store. So the data type is a set of values,
and it has a set of operations. Boolean only has two values it can store. It can only a Boolean instance of this data type can only be true or false. Of course, you can have many different variables that are all Boolean data type, and they can have different values at different times. But if you look at a single value, Boolean is really the set of true and false. And then the operations we can perform on that variables of this kind are we can AND them, or we can OR them, or we can XOR them, exclusive OR. I hope we did that. Or we can NOT them. And different types have different values and operations. So integers are all those values, and we can add and subtract and multiply, take the modulo. Doubles are different values, and they have different operations. Even though the list may seem exactly the same, add, subtract, multiply, this add and that add is not the same thing. Because internally for the computer, to add a 32-bit integer to another integer is one thing. It follows certain instructions. But to add a 64-bit double to another 64-bit double in the number of bits are different. How it works inside is very different. Instructions the computer will execute are different. So even though the names are the same, the operations really are a bit different inside. So what we need to know is that data types have a set of values always and a set of operations. And we've learned the basic ones. We've learned about integers and booleans and doubles and characters, maybe floats, longs. And I'll be honest that I cannot recall what happened in the first semester. It's just one big gap. I was in the coma after my ski accident, where I cannot recall anything from earlier this year. But we want to extend what we know. Whatever data types we know, we want to have new ones. We want to make our own, in fact. So we want to do things like work with colors and work with pictures. We want to do some kind of image manipulation. And then later on, next week, we want to work extensively with strings and manipulate string data like genomes and DNA. What other kind of thing can we do we want to store? Complex numbers. Have you done complex numbers in maths? Wow, we didn't do that for the second year. Or did we? No, in my first year we did almost exclusively real numbers. Wow. Okay, so you know complex numbers. Vectors. Who's doing physics? Who's not doing physics? Oh. Let's just learn the first row. Right? Sebastiano! Sebastiano! Let's just learn that. Robert. Luca. What is your surname? Scared. Nomes. Oh, symbols. Never mind. Mario. Nom de familia.
I can't speak the word.
Sincero?
Sorry?
Sincero?
Yeah.
Oh, Sincero. It's Italian, yes. Sebastiano. Rosalyn. What are you doing instead of physics? What are you doing instead of physics? Are you an actuarial science student?
No, but I want to say
Whatever. Name. England. That's Ibrahim is kind of last name is not common. England would be exotic. Not doing physics. Doing. You just have mathematics and computer. It's about that. Mathematical science. So it's not. Whatever. Something in good information with people. Physics. Name. Louise. Stan. Okay, Louise. What do you think is the Become. Who's become? Okay, down. You are not become. General linguistics. Oh, what languages do you know? None of them. Because it's general linguistics. You will never learn a language. So just keeping it general, people. No specific language. I don't want to pick up any French or German. That's fine. Okay, right. So some of you may not know about Plato. Sebastiano, Ibrahim, not doing that, and Louise, and the general linguistics is, you don't know about vectors, but they're really useful, and we look at them. Major issues all know from maths, polynomials, but that's easy stuff. Then things like particles. We want to represent information about particles, so we need some kind of data to store them. But any particle has loads of attributes, and those attributes are just values. Just like 5 is an integer. We have an attribute, we have, I don't know what the attributes of particles are. Charge, spin, was that the same thing? Location, and that's a value. We can think of a particle as a value that we want to store in some kind of charged particle data file. Okay, so that's where we want to get at. To do that, easy peasy stuff built into Java. Difficult, non-easy peasy stuff not built into Java. So if we want to store information like this, we need a place to store them, a way to store them, and that's where objects come in. Because an object is exactly that. It's a lot of values and a lot of operations that we or someone else has to define, and then we can use it for whatever purpose we want. For example, in this chapter, in this 3.1, I think, the textbook and us in class this weekend actually, will look at colors, a color object, and a picture object, and also strings. I know we've seen strings before, but we look at them in more detail. So what are the values? For a color, it's the 24 bits that describe a different color. Different colors. How many colors can the human eye see? 3. Maybe I will rephrase that.
100,000. Some millions. 100,000.
Okay. What's your name? Sebastiano, Ibrahim, Luis, and Janelle. It's so complicated. It's that everybody has a short name, one syllable max. Okay? Like Jack or Dance or I am tired of your complicated names. I only want the word syllable. Ja, con, lu, e, se. Okay, se. You can have se. I'll give you se. Yes, lu.
By saying all this, by saying all this syllables, you effectively saying the same.
Yeah, no, that's demonstrating how short the names must be. Say another again. Okay, I'll get back to you in a second. 100,000 is not the right answer. No, I can see millions of colors. Is that right? Millions of colors. That's right. You said that. Yes, Luca. I know. That's right. I'm there. It's also a jar, which is like Jamaican for God, isn't it? So, I'll check. Bottom line is that I can see many, many colors. I don't think it's 100,000. I think it's more than that. I'll admit I haven't checked. But there is a fun game which we'll have, I must put in the tab that tests how finely you can distinguish colors. 24 bits is a lot of colors.
It's 16 million different colors. That's definitely more than your eye can see. So 24 bits is enough to distinguish all the colors we need. Now, there's complication involved here. I mean, color is actually very complicated. 10 million, that's it. That's not cool.
It's like Wikipedia.
It's like Wikipedia. Now, listen, it doesn't matter how many colors your eyes can see because there's a lot of psychology involved in color theory. And that is that even very subtle differences that you can't detect consciously can influence how you feel or perceive an object. So that 24 bits is probably enough colors to keep you occupied, to express all you want. But it doesn't matter how many we can see, we can probably perceive more than that. So that it's important. Okay. I know you raised your hand, but next to you is who? Let's go for that slide. It not. And oh, H. First syllable is H. H. And no, I don't know what I would say. Hold on. Oh, are you on my list? Are you a visitor? I have to go right now. Your H, G comes to H, and your name is in T. I can sense it about you. T. It must be giant. Yes, giant. What was Close. Close. Google. That's not how many we can see. Doesn't matter. We want to represent 16 million, which fits into 24 bits. So these are the different values. What operations do we want to do on a color? I have to stop. I'm too tired to repeat everything I said in Afrikaans. I'll stop making so many digressive jokes by Friday. You can move on a little bit, but I'll see you at 8 o'clock here. Yeah.